Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of sources articles, research, your own notes, and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge or insight, giving you a shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a truly unique journey, one chronicled in, well, surprising detail. We're going to trace the history of a figure known simply as Cottrell, his classroom, room 43, and the events that unfolded there over a single school year.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
Our mission for you, the listener, especially if you've never encountered this remarkable account before, is to really delve into his legacy and chronologically recount the surprising incidents that defined his time.
Indeed. This deep dive offers a fascinating and sometimes pretty tumultuous look at a specific educational environment. It really shows how initial good intentions can, well, unravel under unforeseen pressures.
Right.
And the chronicle we're drawing from, it's almost like a historical text in its style. It even marks its moments by days. So when you hear us refer to, say, AI Day or XCI Day, just know that it's the source's unique way of marking these pivotal shifts in Cottrell's year.
Ah, okay.
It gives the narrative a really distinct pacing and feel, you know.
It's a story that reveals so much about human nature, I think, and the delicate dynamics within a learning environment, and how quickly things can shift from earnest, hopeful intent to just profound chaos. From an unexpected beginning to a really dramatic climax, prepare for a deep dive filled with twists and turns. We're talking about a school year that began with a literal storm and ended in a very different, metaphorical one, leaving a lasting impression on everyone involved.
Yeah, it certainly did. The unexpected beginning. Room 43 and the arrival of Cottrell.
So let's unpack this unusual start, beginning with what the Chronicle calls I-Day. The school year for these students was officially slated to begin on Tuesday, August 22, 2023.
Right, that was the plan.
But the universe, or rather nature, had entirely different plans, creating an immediate, unforeseen disruption.
That's right. The official start was actually postponed because of a pretty unprecedented natural event for that region. A tempest named Hillary.
Hillary, okay.
Yeah. Our sources describe it as arising from the southern seas, bringing with it just relentless rains and winds so strong they made roads impassable, forced widespread school closures.
Wow.
This wasn't just, a heavy rain shower. It was a significant meteorological event that completely halted normal life. As the Chronicle vividly puts it, that first day of assembly, the supposed I-Day, simply passed in silence. It immediately created this sense of heightened anticipation, almost a blank canvas, for the true beginning of the school year.
Which brings us to Time Day, so Wednesday, August 23, 2023. The storm had passed, the floodwaters were thankfully receding, and the warm sun had returned, bringing back the heat. The students arrived, and the Chronicle paints such a clear picture.
It really does.
They were standing in line against the stone wall outside room 43. You can almost feel the residual warmth radiating from that sun-baked stone, the rough texture of the dust and concrete underfoot. Their voices, we're told, were low, almost hushed, and their gazes were uncertain. This wasn't just a new year, it was a new school, a new classroom, and apparently none of them had been there before.
Right, total unknown.
And the green door, which, well, becomes a significant symbol later, stood shut before them, firm and unmoving. There's this palpable sense of waiting, of a journey about to commence that they couldn't possibly foresee.
It's a truly vivid and almost cinematic scene, isn't it? That quiet anticipation right before a pivotal moment, a group on the cusp of something new, full of unknowns.
Yeah.
And then precisely at the time appointed, that iconic green door opened. And there appeared before them Cottrell, the one set over room 43.
Cottrell arrives.
The description of his first appearance is quite striking. His countenance unreadable, just completely neutral. He looked at them briefly, a moment of silent assessment, then simply held the door open, gesturing them in. They entered one by one, scattering through a room described as bare and quiet, filled with the scent of dust and anticipation. They took their seats, maybe fidgeting a bit, not knowing the customs nor the purpose of the place.
Right.
The air was still, thick with unspoken questions, and the students awaited the first words that would proceed from the mouth of Cottrell. It paints a picture of a very traditional, almost formal first encounter, setting a tone of quiet expectation.
And those first words, delivered still on that same T-Day, were anything but traditional. Cottrell stood before them in room 43, lifting his voice for the very first time. After welcoming the students, taking the time to call each by name from the scroll of the roster, which is A nice personal touch right away.
Yeah, it is.
He specifically thanked them for coming despite the wet sands and mud left behind by the storm named Hillary. He acknowledged their resolve in simply showing up, calling it the beginning of all that we seek to build together.
Hmm.
This wasn't just a science teacher talking about, experiments or textbooks. This was clearly something far broader.
What's truly fascinating here is that this initial address immediately signaled that Cottrell's pedagogical approach was going to be radically different, much broader than typical science instruction.
Totally.
He presented himself not just as a teacher of scientific facts, but as a guide to life principles. He didn't mince words. He explicitly declared, "In this place you shall not only be taught science, but you shall also be instructed in the habits of success."
Wow. Okay. Habits of success.
Yeah. This introduction of 7 habits alongside the science curriculum established a significant, almost foundational promise or mission for the class, distinct from mere academic learning. It truly set an expectation for holistic personal growth, a real departure from the usual classroom dynamic.
And he didn't just generally wave his hand at good habits. He named them right there, although the Chronicle says he spoke not long on any at that initial introduction. He wanted them to know this was the philosophical core, the underlying philosophy of their time together.
Right, laying the groundwork.
The very first one he mentioned was be proactive, which he explained as to take responsibility and act with intent. Then begin with the end in mind, meaning to know the purpose before the journey. And third, put first things first, described as to choose what is important above what is urgent. These are not your typical first day of school announcements.
Not at all. Exactly. The 4th habit he laid out was think win-win, explaining it as to seek mutual benefit in all dealings, a clear push towards collaborative success rather than just competition.
Mm.
The 5th, seek first to understand, then to be understood, which is basically to hear fully before speaking, emphasizing empathy and active listening.
That's a big one.
Huge. The 6th, synergize, meaning to unite in strength through differences, a call for leveraging diverse perspectives. And finally, the 7th, sharpen the saw, which he described as to renew thyself that thou may be not dulled by toil, a principle of self-care and continuous improvement. It's clear these were meant to be foundational principles, setting a very ambitious tone for the year.
So how did a room full of 7th graders react to this, highly unusual curriculum on the very first day of gathering? Our sources say there was a murmuring among a few because these words were not expected and the saying was new unto their ears.
Makes sense.
It makes complete sense, doesn't it? You walk into a science class, you're expecting lab safety rules or a syllabus about cells and atoms, not a philosophical discourse on life habits.
Right.
Yet Cottrell, undeterred, maintained silence and then asserted that these ways shall serve you not only in this room, but in all rooms where life is learned.
Bold statement.
Yeah. The Chronicle notes that Cottrell taught various periods, 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th, but notably not 2nd or 6th periods. Even the shorter 7th period heard the same comprehensive charge. Many, the source tells us, pondered in their hearts what these sayings might mean. It wasn't an immediate embrace for everyone, but it certainly made them think.
This quiet, uncertain beginning, with its immediate and profound emphasis on character development and self-improvement, truly defined Cottrell's initial vision. It set a very high bar, differentiating his classroom from what most students would expect.
Definitely.
And this strong opening statement, defining his unique approach, would soon give way to Cottrell's elaboration on these very principles, cementing his pedagogical direction right from the start. 2. The philosophical foundation, unpacking the 7 habits.
And so the very next day, what the Chronicle calls Thursday, August 24th, 2023, Cottrell moved from simply naming these powerful habits to truly unpacking them. He stood before them, his gaze steady as the morning sun, and spoke with a voice clear and full, diving deep into each principle, giving them context and urging his students to consider their application.
This section truly solidifies Cottrell's initial pedagogical approach, highlighting his early, deep commitment to character development and self-mastery alongside academic instruction. It shows his comprehensive vision for holistic student growth, a vision that, as we'll see, would unfortunately later become a significant point of contention and ultimately a source of profound disappointment for his students. He clearly wasn't just teaching what to think, but fundamentally how to approach life, learning, and interaction.
He really dove into the first habit, becoming proactive,
Mm.
emphasizing personal responsibility. He explained it as to take responsibility for thy own life, to act with intention, not by impulse or circumstance.
Hmm.
And then he delivered a truly powerful declaration, and I'm quoting directly from the Chronicle here, "Thou art the master of thine own fate." He urged them not to blame the winds or the tides, but rather rise as the captain of thy soul, steering ever forward.
Wow.
For a seventh grader, or anyone really, that's an incredibly empowering message, isn't it?
Yeah.
It places the locus of control firmly within themselves.
Absolutely. And he didn't stop there. He then moved to begin with the end in mind, instructing them to envision the destination to which thou art bound before taking any step. He emphasized the critical importance of foresight, stating emphatically, without vision, the journey is lost.
Hmm.
He urged them, let the end be thy lantern in the night. This wasn't just about planning a school project, it was about defining one's life purpose and aligning all actions towards that ultimate goal. It's about purposeful action, right from the outset, to ensure you're always moving in the right direction.
And put first things first was about a fundamental life skill, distinguishing the urgent from the important, and consciously choosing to give time and strength to what truly matters.
So crucial.
He stressed, "Let discipline be thy companion," and delivered another key insight. It is not enough to be busy, thou must be busy with purpose. This is intensely practical advice, applicable far beyond the classroom in business and personal life everywhere. It's about effective time and energy management.
Indeed. With Think Win-Win, he taught them to seek not to conquer, but to prosper together in all dealings, advocating for mutual gain where there is abundance. This was meant to be the foundation for enduring relationships, pushing them beyond a competitive mindset towards one of collaboration and shared success.
Right.
It suggests a world where everyone can gain, fostering trust and long-term partnerships.
Then came seek first to understand, then to be understood. This habit at its core is about empathy and effective communication. He encouraged listening with the heart open and humble, stating that understanding is the key to peace, and only then may thy own voice be heard.
Such a powerful lesson.
It's a powerful lesson in stepping into another person's shoes before trying to express your own viewpoint, recognizing that true listening paves the way for being heard.
And Synergize advocated for the power of collective strength. He urged them to join thy strength with that of others, that the whole may be greater than the sum of its parts. He believed that through unity and diversity, new paths shall be revealed. This concept pushes beyond simple teamwork. It's about valuing individual differences and combining them to create something entirely new and more powerful than what any single person could achieve alone. It's the essence of collaborative innovation.
Finally, sharpen the saw, focused on the critical importance of self-renewal. Renew thyself in body, mind, and spirit, that thou may endure the toils of life. He advised them. Rest in due time, seek knowledge, and tend to thy health, for only thus shalt thou remain strong.
Yeah.
It's a holistic approach to sustained effort and well-being, recognizing that constant output without input leads to burnout. It's about maintaining your capacity for life's challenges.
So for you, the listener, what does this all mean? Consider for a moment how these universal principles might apply to your own learning journey, your professional pursuits, or even your personal well-being. Do any of these resonate as keys to effective knowledge acquisition or application? Perhaps the idea of being proactive in seeking information, beginning with the end in mind when tackling a complex project, or even sharpening your own saw by taking time for reflection and learning. Cottrell clearly saw them as universal truths, foundational to success in any endeavor, whether in his classroom or beyond.
And the student response to this in-depth philosophical unpacking, the Chronicle notes, quote, "A silence fell over the room as the weight of the words sank deep into the hearts of the disciples." It wasn't immediate, enthusiastic applause or universal adoption, but clearly it made an impact. Some nodded, some murmuring softly, grappling with the meaning of such counsel. It shows a genuine engagement, even if mixed with confusion.
Right, they were processing it.
At the end, some felt a flame kindled within, others a question unanswered, but all knew that the path before them was not as before. This illustrates the profound, if varied, initial impression Cottrell made. He truly had their attention.
While these teachings were profound and certainly set a unique high bar for the classroom's purpose, they would soon encounter the very practical realities of daily classroom life.
Yeah.
This initial philosophical promise, meant to guide them, would begin to face the test of everyday interactions, leading to the emergence of skepticism and a gradual disconnect, even as the academic curriculum progressed. The gap between Cottrell's stated ideal and the student's lived reality was about to begin to show. 3. Early doubts in the science curriculum, V-Day to LXXE Day.
Here's where the narrative takes a fascinating turn. Despite the initial immersive teachings on those 7 habits, which were so carefully introduced and explained, doubts began to surface relatively quickly. Our sources specifically mention students in the first and third periods who, in their hearts, question whether the words of Cottrell were wholly true or reasonable. This reveals an early and significant disconnect, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
The philosophical groundwork wasn't universally accepted or perhaps fully understood in its practical application.
While Cottrell clearly aimed for a transformative, holistic education, moving beyond rote learning, some students seemed to maintain a more traditional view of schooling.
Yeah, likely.
They were probably expecting a standard science curriculum, perhaps with more tangible, immediate academic deliverables. This philosophical overlay, no matter how well-intentioned or profound, might have felt extraneous, abstract, or even, preachy to some.
Right.
It also highlights a crucial power dynamic at play. Despite their internal doubts and growing questioning, students persisted in coming to his class, lest they insult him or be disciplined. For discipline was swift, and none wished to draw his ire.
Ah, okay. So fear was a factor.
Seems like it. So they were physically present, abiding by the structure, but mentally and emotionally, questions were already brewing, creating a quiet undercurrent of resistance.
And Cottrell, for his part, did provide the necessary resources for their academic goals, so it wasn't a total abandonment of traditional learning. He gave each student a book of science and a laptop to aid their study and work. So the core academic tools were indeed present. The Chronicle also notes the significant numbers of students in the first and third periods, which were larger classes, while the 7th period remained shorter. And, as we mentioned earlier, the 2nd and 6th periods were not part of Cottrell's teaching schedule.
In terms of classroom dynamics during this phase, we see this intriguing blend of compliance and internal resistance. The students took their places each day, some perhaps still eager to learn, but others certainly bearing their doubts silently.
Right.
Yet all remained within the walls, abiding by the order given, for they feared to bring dishonor upon Cottrell and to face his discipline. Cottrell's teachings continued during this period, described as steady and firm. His voice filled the room with instruction. The students listened, but they were divided between hope and doubt. It paints a picture of underlying tension, a quiet dissatisfaction simmering beneath the surface of routine and obedience.
Definitely sounds like it.
This unspoken internal conflict laid the groundwork for future issues.
And those underlying questions and hesitations would slowly simmer as the focus shifted more directly to the science curriculum itself. This is a long period, spanning several months, and it would ironically reveal Cottrell's own self-doubt, not just the students' growing skepticism.
Yeah, that's a key point.
It seems the challenges of integrating his grand vision with the daily grind of instruction were beginning to take their toll.
Indeed. From V-Day, which was Monday, August 28th, 2023, all the way to LXXX V-Day, Monday, January 22, 2024, that's a significant chunk of the school year, spanning nearly 5 months.
Wow, yeah.
Cottrell focused on teaching many parts of the science of the 7th grade. The students listened and labored in their studies, and the Chronicle notes they performed decently according to the measure of their work. So academically, they were getting by. This period, though academically focused, represents a phase where the initial philosophical teachings, while still a foundational element Cottrell had introduced, increasingly faded into the background as the daily grind of science lessons took over. The grand vision perhaps struggled against the practicalities of a curriculum.
But critically, and this is where the narrative gains a powerful psychological layer, our sources tell us that it was known among them that Cottrell's ways were uncertain, for he was spoken of as one who doubted the success of his own teaching.
Yeah, that's huge.
This is a crucial insight. The chronicler suggests Cottrell himself harbored deep doubts about the efficacy of his methods and perhaps his ability to connect with these students even as he was trying to teach.
Right.
This isn't just student perception, it seems to be an internal reality for him, a quiet erosion of confidence.
This raises an important question for any leader or educator. How does a teacher's self-doubt, or perhaps even their perceived self-doubt, impact the learning environment and the trust of those they lead? From the student perspective, this translated into concrete observations. Many whispered that his methods might not lead to the fullness of learning. Most of his disciples held the belief that change was needed and desired new paths and sought greater understanding.
So they felt something was missing.
Exactly. Despite this, they continued in their seats, following the lessons given, for the classroom was their place and Cottrell their guide. There's a sense of duty, almost a resignation on the part of the students. They saw the problems, yearned for something different, but felt powerless to instigate change.
So what we have here is this truly fascinating contrast. Despite the students' underlying desire for change, their quiet yearning for greater understanding, and Cottrell's own evident internal uncertainty, the routine held fast.
Yeah, the status quo persisted.
The days passed with steady pace, and the teachings were many, the content broad. The students watched and waited, wondering if the change they sought would ever come. It was a period of quiet, sustained anticipation, where dissatisfaction was present, but not yet expressed overtly. It was a simmering pot, building pressure.
And this simmering dissatisfaction, coupled with Cottrell's internal doubts and waning hope, would soon boil over. This wasn't just a gradual decline, it culminated in a dramatic and destructive transformation, marking the true, undeniable turning point of the entire narrative.
Right.
The quiet tension would give way to open conflict. 4. The turning point. Cottrell's transformation and the descent into chaos.
Okay, here's where the Chronicle takes a truly dramatic and honestly heartbreaking turn. Our sources mark what they call XCI Day, Monday, January 29, 2024, as a profound, almost instantaneous shift.
Yeah, the language is stark.
Cottrell, we are told, was changed, as if by nightfall his nature was altered beyond measure. This isn't just a bad day or a rough patch. The description is absolute. His actions became erratic, his spirit darkened, and his mood turned angry and troubled sorely.
Wow.
It sounds like a complete fundamental change in his personality and his approach.
This is undoubtedly the most critical pivot point in the entire account of Cottrell's tenure in Room 43. It signals a complete and devastating breakdown of the initial promise and trust that was established so carefully through the introduction and elaboration of those 7 habits of success.
Gone.
Yeah. The Chronicle explicitly spells out the cause of this dramatic change, and it points directly to Cottrell's internal struggle. His deeply held belief that his students did not care for his teachings, especially the science lessons he had worked so hard to impart.
He genuinely felt they regarded his lessons with indifference and disdain, believing most cared not at all for the knowledge he sought to give. And this perception, the sources tell us, was more than just a passing frustration. It pierced his heart and kindled bitterness within him.
Oof.
You can almost visualize the emotional toll that must take on someone who has poured so much energy and vision into their craft, feeling it's utterly unappreciated. It's a powerful reminder of how a leader's self-perception, even if it's a misinterpretation, can profoundly impact their behavior and their interactions with those they lead.
Absolutely. As a direct and almost immediate result of this perceived indifference and ingratitude, his hope waned and his faith in his mission dwindled away.
Just evaporated.
And consequently and tragically, he turned upon his disciples with harshness, judging them with anger and suspicion. This had a devastating cascading effect on the students. The students were confounded and grieved, for the man who once was patient and wise now spoke with fury.
Oh, man.
Their love for him faded, and many grew to hate him. The initial connection he sought to build, the foundation of those 7 habits, was replaced by deep resentment, fear, and a sense of betrayal.
Yeah.
The very environment he sought to uplift became one of profound emotional distress.
And the consequence of this transformation was stark, almost immediate. His teachings were abandoned, his spirit withdrawn, and the classroom became a place of fear and sorrow. Uncertainty reigned, palpable in the air, and none among them were as they had been before.
Just a complete reversal.
It's a tragic unraveling of an initially hopeful beginning, demonstrating how quickly trust and positive dynamics can erode when a leader's emotional state takes such a drastic turn.
This profound and sudden shift immediately plunged Room 43 into what the Chronicle calls an era of chaos, a period of open rebellion and continuous disorder, entirely removed from the initial vision of the 7 habits.
Right.
The seeds of doubt that had been quietly germinating over months now burst forth into full-blown, undeniable conflict.
And so began that era of chaos following that XCI Day shift. Students openly rebelled against him, and it's crucial to note that the Chronicle specifies this rebellion was not out of wickedness, but from the sting of disappointment due to his perceived betrayal of the promise he had made.
Yeah, that promise.
the promise to improve their lives through the teaching of the 7 habits. His teachings had become hollow, devoid of the initial spirit, and his very presence became a burden to them. They didn't just dislike him, they felt genuinely let down.
This analysis from the source is absolutely key to understanding the students' motivations. Their rebellion was a direct response to a perceived broken promise, a deep sense of unmet expectations. It demonstrates how unmet expectations, especially those tied to personal growth and life principles, can transform into active, visible resistance. This portrayal shows the students as active agents in the unfolding drama, rather than passive recipients of a teacher's mood swings or disciplinary actions.
Right, they weren't just acting out randomly.
No, they felt genuinely let down, and their actions were a visceral manifestation of that collective disappointment.
And the specific manifestations of this disorder paint a truly vivid, almost unbelievable picture. Unrest spread throughout his periods. It wasn't isolated, it was systemic. Students ceased their labors and did not complete the tasks appointed to them, a direct act of academic non-compliance.
Just stopped working.
Yeah. Their hands did not move upon the laptops, nor did they open the books given. And then it gets wild, almost absurd. They cast apple juice and strange things across the classroom.
Whoa.
The air was filled with disorder, and the space once meant for learning became a battlefield. Some shouted, others laughed, and still others simply sat in rebellion. This goes far beyond mere disengagement. It's active, pervasive disruption and disrespect. It sounds like a scene from a movie, but it was their daily reality.
And the motivation, as we discussed, was consistently rooted in that sense of betrayal. Their struggle was not born of malice, but of the broken promise they had once trusted. Cottrell, once a hopeful guide, had become a symbol of confusion and betrayal. The Chronicle even notes that even the usually shorter, often more manageable 7th period was no less fierce in its rebellion. It permeated every aspect of his teaching schedule, every class period experiencing this profound dysfunction.
The classroom environment, once envisioned as a place of vision and growth, became a house divided. What's particularly poignant and reveals the depth of their initial hope is that the hearts of the disciples longed still for restoration, that the one who was called Cottrell might return to his former way.
Wow, even then.
This wasn't just mindless, destructive rebellion. There was a deeper yearning for the initial promise to be fulfilled, for the teacher they had met on Tade to return. They didn't just want him gone. They wanted the old him back.
And this state of chaos persisted for a remarkably long time, spanning from the XCI day unto the CL87 day, which translates to Monday, January 29, 2024, all the way to Friday, May 10th, 2024.
That's over 3 months.
Over 3 months of continuous discord, nearly the entire second half of the school year. The Chronicle emphasizes, chaos reigned in room 43, characterized by confusion and unrest. Cottrell's words were consistently sharp, his presence heavy, and his eyes held a constant suspicion. The students' actions, in turn, became strange, and their speech was without restraint. It was a truly dysfunctional, almost unbearable environment for everyone involved.
This prolonged period of discord, filled with numerous unrecorded events that we can only imagine the details of, would eventually reach a visible, highly symbolic climax with the emergence of something truly unique. The chair corner. The symbolic rebellion. The chair corner and the final confrontation.
Okay, yeah, the chair corner.
So we're now nearing the very end of the school year, on Celix 7th day, Friday, May 10th, 2024. Amidst all this simmering chaos and open defiance, a distinct and rather absurd act of rebellion emerged almost out of nowhere. During the 3rd period, a student initiated what would become known as the chair corner by simply placing a chair in a far corner of the classroom. It sounds so simple, yet it would become so much more.
This seemingly innocuous, simple act quickly escalated into a powerful, albeit absurd, symbol of student defiance against Cottrell's changing ways.
Right.
It vividly shows students finding a collective, nonverbal, and highly creative way to express their deep discontent. The chair corner wasn't about violence or direct confrontation. It was a public, persistent statement, a visual protest against what they perceived as tyranny. Cottrell's increasingly harsh and unpredictable behavior.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how a physical space can be transformed into a canvas for resistance.
And it started, as the Chronicle states, as a jest, a bit of a joke, eliciting laughter lightly among the others. But crucially, it did not end there. Soon, another chair was added unto the first, and then another, until there were 6 chairs, transforming that corner as if it were an altar erected in silent protest. Can you imagine walking into that classroom day after day and seeing this growing, evolving monument of defiance?
That's quite a visual.
It's almost theatrical in its symbolism.
And the impact, remarkably, spread like wildfire. Word of this thing spread from the third period unto the others. Students from later periods, when they beheld it, didn't take it lightly at all. They became participants.
They joined in.
Yeah, they started bringing objects of their own, and the Chronicle notes, strange and varied were the offerings, but they were brought in unity. This wasn't just one class's inside joke. It became a school-wide phenomenon within Cottrell's teaching hours, a collective, silent demonstration. The chair corner grew in stature and in renown, standing not in honor but in defiance against what they called the tyranny of Cottrell. For days, even as that week continued, the construction continued. None removed it, and many revered it. It became as a monument within the room. It was a truly powerful visual statement of their unified discontent.
But interestingly, despite its symbolic power and how much it represented their collective frustration, the chair corner did not bring any resolution. It didn't force a change from Cottrell. And then, quite abruptly, on the final day of that week, the very students who started it did remove them, though the Chronicle gives no specific reason why. Perhaps the message had been sent.
Maybe. Or maybe it just ran its course.
The memory, however, remained in the minds of all who had seen it, etched into their collective experience.
And Cottrell's reaction to this rather blatant public act of defiance is incredibly telling. He beheld these things and said little, for he knew not how to reach the hearts of those who once followed him.
He just watched it happen.
Seems like it. This indicates his continued inability to bridge the growing divide with his students, and perhaps a profound sense of helplessness or resignation in the face of such unique and unified opposition. His silence in this moment speaks volumes about the complete breakdown of his authority and connection. He simply didn't know what to do.
That symbolic rebellion of the chair corner and Cottrell's passive, silent response to it really foreshadowed the dramatic and abrupt climax of the entire saga. His swift and public removal from room 43, the very place he had once hoped to transform.
That brings us to CLX Tube, Friday, May 17th, 2024. What began as a seemingly routine assignment escalated, in a matter of minutes, into the definitive final event of Cottrell's tumultuous tenure.
Okay, the final confrontation.
During the first period, Cottrell, standing before his students, instructed them, "Behold, an assignment is posted upon Google Classroom. Complete it." A seemingly simple instruction.
Students began to work, as instructed, but one among them, named Daniel, he did not the command and did protest. Daniel refused, and then things escalated quickly outside the classroom. At precisely 7th hour and 40th minute of that day, Cottrell called Daniel out from the classroom and the door was closed, presumably so the conversation could be private.
Outside room 43, a discussion began, initially calmly, with Cottrell asking Daniel to return to work on the assignment. However, the Chronicle makes it clear. Daniel answered him not in humility, indicating a continued defiance. The talk quickly escalated from a dispute to an outright argument, with tension rose and voices lifted. This is where the situation rapidly and irreversibly deteriorates. Our source explicitly states that Daniel had spoke to him, calling him a nigga.
And then, the Chronicle records the pivotal moment, the precise exchange that sealed Cottrell's fate. At the 7th hour and the 47th minute, just 7 minutes after they stepped outside, Cottrell spoke to Daniel, saying, "Don't you call me a nigger, I mean nigger."
Wow.
This incident, with its raw, explicit dialogue, served as the immediate, undeniable catalyst for Cottrell's removal. It crystallizes the complete breakdown of authority and respect and the deeply fractured relationship between teacher and students.
Absolutely.
And critically, the fact that this specific, highly charged exchange was recorded by students was key to its rapid and impactful dissemination. It became irrefutable evidence.
The immediate aftermath in the classroom, even with the door closed, was utter chaos. The class, having overheard his words, was filled with astonishment. Great was the uproar among them.
I can imagine.
Laughter erupted and confusion spread like fire, with some mocking, others recorded, capturing the moment for posterity, and many spoke among themselves. This was a complete breakdown of any remaining order or decorum.
Yeah.
Cottrell, perceiving the chaos and the irreparable damage, sought aid. He called upon the vice principal to bring order to the house.
However, the Chronicle reveals a swift turning of the tables. The vice principal, having heard the matter and the recorded evidence, immediately turned against him, for the statements which Cottrell had made were not to be borne.
That was it.
And that was it. The decision was swift and final. Thus, Cottrell was escorted out from the building, and room 43 was left without its keeper. His tenure was over, abruptly and publicly.
And the student reaction to this public removal was swift and, for many, celebratory. The students of the first period, witnessing this dramatic exit, lifted their voices and rejoiced greatly, for they saw the fall of the one who had once stood as their teacher, and in their eyes, justice had been done.
Wow, relief.
It paints a picture of collective relief, a profound sense that a long, difficult, and painful chapter had finally closed. It was liberation.
Cottrell's swift and public removal had immediate and widespread repercussions, spreading rapidly throughout the entire school community, amplified by the digital recordings of the event. 6. The fallout and Cottrell's legacy.
Immediately after Cottrell's removal on CLX's 7, the students of the first period, with their devices, took it upon themselves to call their parents, declaring what had just happened.
Right away.
This understandably led to parents, greatly troubled, arriving at the school seeking Cottrell's permanent removal. This section underscores the immediate and powerful impact of the incident, amplified by the digital age with recorded evidence. A single, charged event rapidly mobilized an entire community.
It highlights how a single incident, especially one involving such fraught language, can rapidly mobilize a community and lead to swift institutional action. Parents, described as greatly troubled, arrived at the school demanding accountability. Students were called forth to bear witness to what had taken place, brought one by one to be questioned about Cottrell's words and conduct. This process of gathering testimony added to the weight and urgency of the situation.
And the truth of the matter spread quickly. As students did not withhold their tongues, they spoke openly and freely about their experiences. And crucially, staff members confirmed the sayings.
Okay.
The news, especially the fact that Cottrell's words had not only been spoken but recorded, moved like a flame, swiftly through the halls and the classrooms. This audio recording was a critical, undeniable piece of evidence that couldn't be disputed, giving an unvarnished account of the climactic event.
Many who had once been in his classroom rejoiced at his departure, feeling his removal was like the lifting of a burden. This really speaks to the sustained stress, unhappiness, and fear that had built up in room 43 over those many months of chaos.
Yeah, you can feel the relief.
When later periods, the 3rd, the 4th, and even the 5th, arrived at room 43 expecting their science class, they found it silent and without its keeper, for the green door was closed and Cottrell was no longer within.
Great was the joy upon them when they knew the truth, with laughter echoed in the halls and murmurs of triumph were heard. The source concludes that on the CLX Sicket Day, a change came upon the land, a turning point wrought not by plan, but by truth revealed. The students spoke freely, for the one who had silenced them was now silenced himself. It truly was a moment of profound liberation for them, an end to a period of deep dysfunction and a triumph of their collective, albeit often chaotic, agency.
And with Cottrell's dramatic departure, a new, albeit brief, chapter began for room 43 and its students as the school year quickly drew to a close. Approximately 8 days after his removal, a new teacher, a woman named Lemon, took his place in room 43.
Okay, a replacement.
While she governed with firmness, the Chronicle notes that the students found little joy in her presence, as their hearts were not easily given to trust, having endured much.
Understandable.
This really speaks to the lingering emotional impact of the Cottrell saga.
This final phase highlights the lasting emotional impact of the Cottrell saga. Even with a new teacher, the atmosphere and the students themselves were irrevocably changed, demonstrating how past experiences, especially traumatic or deeply disappointing ones, shape future interactions and the capacity for trust.
Yeah.
Little of note that came to pass during her watch. The days were simply steady and uneventful, largely moving towards the inevitable end of the school year. The period under Lemon was more about quiet transition and a slow healing process than a renewed, enthusiastic engagement with learning. The wounds were still too fresh.
This period culminated on CLX XXV Day, Thursday, June 6, 2024, which was indeed the final day of the 7th year. Students came to room 43 for the very last time, preparing to move on to the next chapter of their academic lives. And what a collection of memories, both strange and profound, that room must have held for them.
As they stood there, perhaps for a final glance, they looked about and remembered the chaos and the silence, the habits once spoken, the laughter, the confusion, and the downfall. The Chronicle eloquently states, each pupil held their own remembrance of strange days and stranger teachings. The iconic green door stood as it had always stood, a silent witness, but the one who once opened it was gone.
All right.
They spake not much, for words were not needed. The room had already told its tale, a testament to the profound events that transpired within its walls.
When the hour was complete, they departed, one by one, leaving the room as they had found it, yet changed in themselves. They stepped forth into the summer, their minds turned to rest into the days ahead, for the 8th grade awaited them, and they were made ready, not by wisdom alone, but by the trials of Room 43.
Wow.
The chronicle concludes definitively, and the book of Cottrell was closed, but its pages remained in the hearts of those who had read them. A powerful final statement on the enduring impact of this unique year. What an incredible and compelling chronicle we've just unpacked. From Cottrell's ambitious, almost utopian vision for a holistic education in Room 43, through his personal struggles and the profound erosion of trust, to that dramatic climax in the students' eventual collective sigh of relief.
Yeah.
It's a story that truly captured a turbulent period, chronicling the rise and fall of a unique educational experiment and the complex legacy it left behind.
It truly is. This deep dive into the Cottrell account reveals so much about the delicate balance in any learning environment, the critical power of expectations and promises, and the profound, often destructive impact when those are perceived as broken. It also highlights the complex dynamics between authority figures and those they lead, and how even well-intended principles can be completely overshadowed by human error or intense emotional distress, leading to such unexpected and painful outcomes.
Right.
The Cottrell saga, in many ways, offers a chilling insight into the fragility of leadership built on perceived validation. When Cottrell believed his students did not care for his teachings, his entire foundation crumbled, leading him to abandon the very principles he championed.
Yeah, that connection is clear.
This underscores how deeply a leader's self-perception, even if flawed, can dictate their effectiveness and ultimately their downfall. It's a powerful lesson in managing expectations, both your own and others.
For you, the listener, what stands out most from this saga? Perhaps it's the idea that a physical space, like Room 43, can become a crucible, holding such profound collective memory and shaping those within its walls, even through conflict. Or maybe for you, the most striking insight is how student agency can manifest in unexpected forms. The chair corner, initially a jest, evolved into a potent, nonviolent symbol of collective defiance.
Right, it wasn't just random chaos.
Exactly. It wasn't about outright rebellion for its own sake, but a visceral expression of unmet needs, reminding us that even in seemingly powerless environments, people will find ways to communicate their dissent. What does that tell us about the human need for autonomy and how simple acts can become powerful, unifying statements?
Indeed. And it leaves us with a truly provocative thought. Even when a book or a chapter in life closes, the pages of experience and the lessons learned continue to shape those who live through them. How do the stories we experience, even the difficult or strange ones, prepare us for what's next? And how do they influence our own understanding of leadership, trust, and community? The legacy of Cottrell and Room 43 is not just what happened, but how it prepared those students for their own futures, equipping them with lessons far beyond the science curriculum.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. We hope this exploration gives you much to reflect on.